Welcome into the Beat Sessions, your place for all things music. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. Let's talk about this new record from Alison Krauss and Union Station, entitled Arcadia. They released that on March 28th. This is the 7th studio album for the band, and their follow-up to 2011's Paper Airplane. And thankfully, it hasn't been 14 years since we last heard from Alison on record, but it has been a minute. The last time she released any work was a collaborative effort with Robert Plant back in 2021 entitled Raise the Roof. Check that record out too if you haven't yet. But I think Alison is easily the most iconic figure in contemporary bluegrass music. She is a master on the fiddle, and her voice sounds just as stunning and pristine as it did 40 years ago when she first hit the scene. And she is backed by one of the most prodigious collectives of musicians, not just in the bluegrass genre, but I think maybe in all of music, starting with Jerry Douglas on the dobro. I love this instrument. It is so unique and so distinct. The sound of the hollow body guitar with the steel resonator makes bluegrass, in my opinion. And he's maybe the best player in the world with this instrument. He's appeared on over 1,600 albums in his career, and there is good reason for that. You have Barry Bales on the upright bass. Such a dynamic and soft touch. He brings such an ancillary but critical depth to this band's sound, and I love the work that he's doing on this album. He works with Jerry in Earls of Leicester, and he's also worked with the likes of Dolly Parton and Merle Haggard, just to name a few. Guy's got an amazing tenor as well, and I love the harmonies that he has brought to the table throughout the years with this band. You have Ron Block bringing the thunder with the banjo and with the acoustic guitar. Again, more layers, more textures, and he really is so sharp with that banjo. These players that I've all just mentioned have been working together for about 35 years on this project. You have Dan Tominski, who has decided to move on. Unfortunately, he's been with the band for about 30 years, and his guitar work, but also his presence as a lead male vocal has been something that's really helped a lot of these compositions throughout their catalog stand out. It's great to see that he's still working with the band on this project, playing guitar, playing mandolin, and even penning a great track in The Wrong Way. He co-wrote that with Robert Lee Castleman. So I love that he's still there and still involved, but you will not see him on this massive tour that they are getting ready to embark on here in about a month. It is unfortunate, but replacing him is the likes of Russell Moore from Third Time Out. I think the most award-winning male vocalist in the bluegrass genre. This guy brings incredible energy to this outfit, just a seamless transition, it seems like. And it's great to read interviews with Alison. She talks about replacing Dan and approaching the band with the idea of bringing in Russell Moore, and the emphatic yes that all of them were, greeted that idea with. And so I really appreciate the fact that he's working with the band. Look forward to seeing him down the road on future projects with them. Hopefully it doesn't take 14 years, but if it does, it'll be well worth the wait, because this record was definitely well worth the wait. I think I maybe speak for a lot of people when I say that it would be nice to see Alison rocking the fiddle a little more, maybe. I think that fleshing out some of these compositions, or maybe even having more songs, would be nice as well. But I feel like that's just me being greedy. And more than anything, what's important about this record, even with the quick 36-minute runtime, is the intricacy of the compositions. Most of these songs really run at about the 3 to 3.5 minute mark, but there's so much movement. It is seamless and gorgeous and captivating, the way that the dobro will take hold. Then Alison comes in with the fiddle. Then the banjo shows up, Ron doing his thing. And again, it's that movement. It's the exploration of sound that all of these instruments provide that make this experience so worthwhile and so engaging. From a lyrical standpoint, I really enjoyed the stories that are being told here. There's great narrative tales, but there's also songs that feel like confessionals. And I think the combination of the two adds so much depth and really highlights what is going on from a thematic standpoint with this record. Alison talks about telling dark tales. There was someone in her life that was like, how do you get up there on stage and sing these songs? Like, how do they just like not tear you apart? And she says that they do, but the most important thing is telling these stories. Life is difficult. Life is so complicated and arduous for many of us. But in telling these stories, all of us can learn valuable lessons. I don't want to say that, these songs take us back to simpler times, because I think that would be underestimating the fact that life has always been complicated and has always been difficult for humans. But what I love about this kind of old school storytelling in the modern age is it reminds us what the title is all about. Arcadia, this idea of the pastoral, the idea of being one with nature and embracing the world around you in its grandeur, in its beauty. And I think that that's something that is lost on so many of us throughout our daily lives, just constantly on devices, scrolling, and not taking those critical moments to just stop, smell the roses, and be thankful for what you have, even if it is just a little bit. I think so many of us get caught up in what we don't have, the constant pursuit of that, and it can really take away from the overall enjoyment of life. And I think that hearing the stories of people that have struggled in the past, hearing these experiences can provide all of us with the ability to cope and to understand, to learn the lessons that are imparted through our own stories and the ones being told, and to be able to forge a new path towards a happier existence, a more, I don't want to say carefree being, but one where, again, we acknowledge that oftentimes just being alive, being able to take a deep breath, feel the sunshine on us. I'm listening to the birds outside of my house right now. It's a beautiful day in Tucson, Arizona. It's like 80 degrees. Walking the dog this morning and really just enjoying the cool breeze and the warmth of the sun and all of that stuff that just gets lost on us, I feel like, in the grind of modern life. And so these stories, kicking off with the opening track, Looks Like the End of the Road. It's penned by Jeremy Lister. This is one of those confessional songs, and it is breathtaking. Alison's voice is so vulnerable and just incredibly stunning to open up this record. You get this slow fade in with it almost kind of sounds like a synth element for a second, but it's just the instrumentation that fades in kind of an icy manner. You get the dueling guitars that come in, this gothic Americana feel, which is something that I love about their sound. The idea of bluegrass is certainly being tweaked a little bit, and it always has been with this band, I'd argue. I really feel like they provide their own flair within that bluegrass foundation, and that Southern Gothic element is something that I love and crave. We've been talking about, some Gothic outfits on the channel recently, so switching up genres but still getting music that has that kind of dark edge to it is something that I've always really enjoyed. Again, Alison's voice just sounds divine. The vocal melodies that are at work on this thing are phenomenal. I like the way that this song, from a vocal standpoint, it does shift into brighter melodic territory in the chorus. You get this droning fiddle element, and there's moments on this, I love it. Looking up his name here real quick, Stuart Duncan, also a longtime touring member of Alison Krauss and Union Station. He does appear on track 7 on this song, but it definitely sounds like the fiddle work is almost orchestral. There's so much depth, and it almost sounds like there's a half a dozen fiddles going to work when you hear a lot of the string elements. So I'm really loving the way that is working on this record. And I love the way that on this particular song, that droning string element just kind of works in the background, talking about these compositions and the way that the instrumentation just builds seamlessly off of one another. It's just such a pleasure in such a short span of time on these tracks to see from start to finish everything that is going on. There's a great twang in the lead guitar riff on this song, almost has kind of like a gentle Neapolitan flair to it. And I want to say that it sounds like there's an accordion at some point in this song. I'm almost, yes, actually, now that I'm looking at it, yes, from Jeff Taylor, he's providing that on track run. So very subtle, but one of those, talking about Barry and talking about the way that, he's got that soft touch. I love the production on that instrument in this song. The Hangman is your second track. This is where we get to see Russell go to work for the first time on the record. Great storytelling here. Solo guitar plays to open. You get this sinister mood that is felt immediately on this track. It is a dark story. Vocal hits, and the track is going to remain minimal to open. The banjo is going to add some really nice texture. Fiddle's going to work in at that point. And this is another track where the strings really take on more of that orchestral texture. I'm just loving Alison's fiddle work here. The Wrong Way is your third track, penned by Robert Lee Castleman and Dan Tomisky. As I said, the last song, Hangman, Victor Krauss, Alison's brother, and Maurice Ogden penned that track. But getting back to The Wrong Way, light droning strings and guitar play on this song. The strings drop when the vocal hits. It's going to work with a single guitar as the song builds in for a few bars, but then the guitars and the fiddle starts to develop, work back in. You get a great solo about halfway through on this song. The vocal is delicate, but it's confident in its storytelling, and definitely want to read some of the lyrics here to get into this. In my life, I've learned a lot. Not from things I've done, but from things I have not. And sometimes giving ain't giving up. I'll always remember the one that I forgot. In my life, who would believe the never-ending lonely deep inside of me? In my eyes, it ain't over yet. I'll always remember the one I can't forget. Maybe I can get it right, even if I die tonight. Someday when I run out of time, and there's no place left to go, the wrong way was easier to find, but taught me everything I know. Someday when I run out of time and there's no place left to go, the wrong way was easier to find. Just, I love that. I love finding a little bit of light in the darkness. And as we continue to talk about some of these stories, it's the central theme for me to this record is, using other people's experience and their stories to just make the most out of your own. Your fourth track, Granite Mills, is penned by Timothy Erickson. We get to see Russell go back to work on this track. Another really dark tale. This is a sad story. I'll let you guys look that up. I'll read some of the lyrics here real quick. Driving acoustic and soft bass drum are going to open this thing up. Ominous mood complemented by by Russell's vocal here. This has got like an Americana meets Celtic feel. I think it's a really great combination of sounds working. The banjo and guitars are going to work in. Strings come in big about halfway through as well. And to read some of these lyrics in this tale, I want to highlight some of the great storytelling here. In this vain world of trouble, many accidents occur. I'm going to sing about one as sad you ever heard. It was in Fall River City. They were all burned up and killed, imprisoned in a factory known as the Granite Mills. Now, it was my opinion, and it's my opinion still, they might have all been saved had the truth been told from the flames of the burning mill. The first scene was a cruel one, the girl so young in years. She was standing at the window, and her eyes were bathed in tears. She was standing at the window as she called her mother's name, "Oh, mother, mother, save me," and she fell back in the flames. Now, it was my opinion, and it's my opinion still, they might have all been saved had the truth been told from the flames of the burning mill. Love the refrain on this song. The next scene was a hard one as she passed before my eyes. She was leaping out a window, thrown from the roof so high. With a crack, she fell down on the ground. She was bruised and burned and killed. 300 people lost their lives in the flames of the burning mill. I'll provide a link for an article about the what happened behind I should say what happened with this incident and the story behind this track. But it's gut-wrenching and really well done, and the mood is just so sinister and ominous in this track to open. Driving acoustic, soft bass, as I mentioned. We already talked about that, forgive me, but again, the highlight for me on this thing is that combination of Celtic and Americana sounds. Your fifth track, One Ray of Shine, penned again by Victor Krauss. You got Sarah Siskind, writing this track. It's going to mellow things out a little bit, especially since Granite Mills is such a heavy track. Light, somber acoustic textures, a little bit of soft bass. And I feel like this is one of the moments where Barry's work tends to be a little more prominent in the track, so I really enjoyed that. Light beat is kept by tapping on the acoustic guitar. I really love the work that's being done there. Strings are going to work in a very eloquent fashion on this. They're going to drop to focus on the guitar play, but Alison is going to bring those back in. And again, it feels like the bass towards the back end of the song really is when it starts to become more prominent. And this thing is going to finish into a coda with a great solo. Your sixth song, Richmond on the James, is got this driving upbeat lead guitar, banjo, thumping bass, and more acoustic guitar that builds in. The banjo solo is fantastic on this song. Leads right into the fiddle element that takes hold for a moment. And then you're going to get a guitar solo. So talking about that continuity and that movement of instrumentation, a great example of that. Before we hit that last verse, working with some dobro there from Jerry to finish this song off. North Side Gal is your seventh track. This is an interesting song. JT Burgess, Alison Krauss, JD McPherson penned this track. I should say GT Burgess and Alison Krauss wrote Richmond on the James. But Northside Gal feels slightly out of place on this track list, but it's super unique, and I love the bluesy slide and fiddle that open to usher in Russell's vocal performance on this song, upbeat, and not nearly as bleak as most of the tracks. Like this is a song that really feels like about having a good time, and I enjoyed the contrast in mood for that reason. Good energy, banjo solo a little after a minute. It cedes to a mean guitar solo about halfway through this track as well, and definitely a highlight for me on that song. Forever is your eighth song, penned by Robert Lee Castleman. Somber arpeggiated acoustic riff, and Alison's vocal stays minimal. I really liked that dynamic there. Complementary guitar textures that are working in. The lead guitar is impressive on this track as well. The chorus is going to fill out with more instrumentation, get some soft banjo and bass, and just a big soaring vocal from Alison on the hook for this song. Fiddle's going to work in. You get more body from that element there. And then a great solo again that goes to work right around 2:15. The fiddle, like Alison just gives it this like cold shiver at the end. It's just such a quick nuance, but I love its presence in this track. Snow by Bob Lucas is your penultimate track. You got Russell going to work here one more time with the vocals. Banjo's going to open in to usher in a driving up-tempo track. Russell's vocals going to work in. I really dig the muted guitar shuffle that's driving this track. Twangy solo at about 45 seconds. Fiddle's going to build in to add more depth. Great harmonies on this song. I think of all the tracks on this record, the harmonies are really just crushing it on this particular song. Fiddle's going to take over at about 2 minutes, and then it cedes to the guitar element, but remains in that subtle role in the backdrop of this song as it closes out. And then there's A Light Up Ahead. That's written by Jeremy Lister as well. And Alison's vocal is phenomenal. I think that this is a perfect track to close out this record. Pensive, arpeggiated acoustic guitars, big moment of balladry from these guys. And again, stunning work from Alison. Slide working in on the guitars there. Somber solo around 2 minutes and 20 seconds. But this is a song that it evokes hope despite being somewhat dark. And again, I think it really highlights the main theme of this record in trying to find that bit of light in the darkness. Great melodic dynamic to finish this thing off. This is a beautiful record. Again, 14 years is a long time to wait, but I think this album was well worth the wait. I'm going to give this just a solid 9 out of 10. It's a big vinyl, please. Can't wait to go to the record store to pick this up. And I hope that you've been enjoying this record. And if you haven't, give this thing a go. I think it is definitely worth your time. Hope you find this review helpful. Hope you enjoyed the album. Please like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, do all the things to help me blow this project up in 2025. And stay tuned throughout the week for more album reviews. We will see you next time on the Beat Sessions.